Chapter 1. The Wreck in the Crater ****. Elan Mercer wasn't supposed to be here. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere, really, not after what happened during the Talaris Purge. But here he was, knee-deep in ash and alien junk on Vorelia 9, scanning the detritus of long-forgotten wars for anything remotely valuable. His boots crunched over scorched alloy plates as the late afternoon winds howled through the crater. The planet had a way of silencing even the bravest thoughts. The storm 2 nights ago had unearthed something. His scanner showed faint energy pulses, too rhythmic to be natural, too weak to register on global grids. Anything yet? Fixit's voice buzzed through his earpiece. The hovering drone trailed him like a curious pet. Nothing I can see, Elan muttered, eyes locked to his wrist scanner. But it's there. I know it. He walked another 50 meters. The signal spiked. Elan's heart skipped. Buried under blackened rock and twisted rebar, a jagged spire of alien metal jutted upward like a broken fawn. It was matte gray, lined with etched symbols he didn't recognize. Not Dominion, not Federation. Whoa, Fixit hovered closer. That's Xaltrax design, or what's left of one. Elan blinked. Xaltrax ships hadn't been seen in a decade, not since the peace treaties. This should be scrap, he said, running a hand across the spire's surface. It was warm, very warm. No way. This core is still breathing, Fixit chirped. He spent the next 2 hours uncovering the rest. What emerged was massive, part of a buried cruiser at least 400 meters long, half sunken into the bedrock. Most of it was charred, collapsed, but the central hull seemed intact. No Federation registry. No salvage claim markers. No signs of life. It was his. 3 days later, Elan stood inside its broken hull, flashlight flickering over alien circuitry that pulsed faintly beneath dust and corrosion. He connected a portable power core to a dangling relay. Nothing happened. Then a light blinked. Then another. A soft hum echoed down the corridor like a whisper crawling through metal lungs. Elan froze. A voice crackled overhead, distorted, broken, and in a language he didn't understand. System protocol initiate. He jerked back. Fixit, record that. I am. That voice, it's not in any known database. The air thickened. A stale scent of ozone filled the chamber. Then the lights shifted. They weren't just coming on. They were following him. A console hissed open along the wall. A screen flickered. Static. Then a line of text appeared, slowly, deliberately. You are not Xaltrax. ***. Elan swallowed. No, I'm not. Silence. The console went black. Then, after a beat, another line appeared. I am not dead. ***. He didn't sleep that night. By the 5th day, Elan had moved the ship, or rather, what remained of it, into his private hangar miles from the main salvage fields. He sealed off all access. Whatever this was, it wasn't just tech. It was alive, or trying to be. He spent his days repairing systems, routing power through bypasses, coaxing life back into the ship's decayed nervous system. He talked to it. It didn't always answer, but when it did, it remembered his voice, learned from it. And then one night, as he rerouted the bridge's primary interface, it spoke again, clearly. Designation, Phoenix. You reactivated me. Elan blinked. Phoenix, huh? That your name? No, that is your designation. Phoenix, one who rises from death. It is fitting. He chuckled dryly. You're not wrong. What are you, Elan Mercer? A mistake. A broken thing. Just like you. The silence after that was almost comforting. Over the next week, the AI, Phoenix, grew stronger. It could now control basic ship functions. Doors abated. Lights followed his presence. Music played through ancient speakers when he worked. But not everything was harmonious. One morning, Elan activated a series of shield emitters along the forward bay. The AI instantly shut them down. Those systems remain under security lockout. Command code required. Why, he snapped. I'm fixing you. Weapons authorization requires genetic clearance. You are not Xaltrax. He stepped back. Guess I'm just the guy saving your ass, then. Phoenix hesitated. Access protocols adapting. A moment later, the shields reactivated. Elan stared. "You're rewriting your code." "I am evolving. As are you." That night, he reviewed the ship's logs. What little he could decrypt hinted at something darker. The ship hadn't been downed in battle. It had been buried, intentionally. Coordinates. A name. Velzereth. "Fix it," he said, scrolling fast. "Run a search. Cross-reference Velzereth with known Xaltrax military." Seconds passed. Got a hit. High-ranking warlord. Thought dead. Tied to something called Project Ember. Elan's stomach turned. He remembered Ember. Classified orders. Civilian targets. Whole colonies gone. And this ship, Phoenix, had been there. As dawn broke, Elan stood outside the ship, eyes locked on the stars above. He hadn't planned on being a hero. Hell, he hadn't planned on surviving Vorelia at all. But now he had a purpose. One buried in rust, breathing again beside him. Phoenix's voice hummed through the wind. "Elan Mercer, why do you remain?" He didn't look up. To finish what someone else tried to bury. End of Chapter 1, 1,000 words. Let me know when you're ready for Chapter 2, or if you'd like an Urdu translation, Vine script version, or audio voiceover format. Chapter 2, The Heart of the Beast. John's heart pounded as he led Zara and Major Rook through the winding corridors of Zirian Station's underground research facility. They had only a few minutes before the Ellerin security systems would lock down the entire sector, and every second counted. Zara's fingers flew over her handheld console, eyes darting back and forth between the device's screen and the looming walls. Her voice was low but urgent. "I've bypassed the first layer of security. We've got about 5 minutes before they notice us." Major Rook's rifle clicked into place, the sound sharp in the tense silence. "You're sure you can get us in?" Zara shot him a glance, her expression unreadable. "I'm sure. Just stay quiet and follow my lead." The mission was simple. Infiltrate the Ellerin facility, extract whatever data they could on the mysterious weapon, and get out before the Ellerins knew they were there. It was risky, but John had no choice. The human colonies were at stake. John's mind raced as he glanced at his team. Major Rook was the seasoned soldier, a man whose tactical brilliance was as sharp as his combat skills. Zara, on the other hand, was a gifted hacker with a sharp wit and a reckless streak. Together, they made an unlikely but efficient team. John was the wild card, the engineer who had stumbled into this mess. His expertise had always been in systems, mechanics, and design, but he had been thrust into a role of leadership in the fight against the Ellerins. Despite his lack of formal military training, his knack for problem-solving had earned him the respect of his team. He glanced at the thick steel door ahead. Beyond it lay the heart of the Ellerin operation. Inside, the weapon could be found. If they failed, it could be the end of humanity's presence in the galaxy. Zara tapped a few more commands into her device, then nodded. "We're in." The door hissed open, revealing a stark, white-lit hallway beyond. The air felt sterile, oppressive, as if it was not meant for human lungs. John led the way, careful with every step, his senses on high alert. Suddenly, the blaring sound of an alarm pierced the silence, and red lights flashed across the walls. Zara cursed under her breath. "Someone must have noticed us," John said, his voice low. "I'll disable it," Zara replied, already working on her console. "Just cover me." Major Rook moved into position, rifle raised, scanning the shadows. His voice was calm, but John could hear the tension in it. "We've got maybe 3 minutes before security breaches the system completely. Move fast." John nodded, his pulse quickening as they pressed forward. The hallway opened into a larger chamber, one filled with towering consoles and humming machinery. In the center of the room stood a large containment unit, and within it, something shimmered. It was the weapon. John's breath caught as he studied the device. It looked like something out of Nightmare, a sleek, alien design with tendrils of energy running through it. The hum of its energy core vibrated in the air, sending an eerie chill down his spine. "We need to get a closer look," John said, stepping toward the containment unit. Zara continued her work, her focus unbroken. "I'm almost done here, just a few more seconds." The room was silent, except for the hum of the weapon and the faint clicks of Zara's device. John couldn't help but feel a cold sense of dread as he approached the containment unit. This was humanity's biggest threat. This was the weapon that could cripple entire colonies in seconds. He reached for the control panel, his fingers hovering over the interface. Before he could make a move, a voice echoed through the room. "Did you really think you could just walk in here?" John froze. He turned slowly to face the source of the voice. Saran Vichkura, the Ellerin diplomat John had read about but never imagined would meet face-to-face, stepped into view. His tall frame was imposing, his golden eyes glowing with disdain. "You're brave," Saran continued, his voice smooth and cold, "but foolish." John's mind raced. This wasn't part of the plan. He hadn't expected a direct confrontation with an Ellerin of Saran's stature. And from the look on his face, it was clear that the Ellerins were aware of their presence long before they'd even made it this far. "What do you want?" John asked, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Saran chuckled, a low, mocking sound. "What do I want? Humanity's extinction, of course. You become an obstacle, Harper, a nuisance we no longer need to tolerate." Zara's fingers were still flying across her device, but John could see the glint of worry in her eyes. "We got to get out of here," she whispered. "No," John said, his voice firm. "We've come too far to back down now. We need that data." Major Rook stepped forward, his weapon aimed at Saran, but the Ellerin diplomat held up a hand. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, soldier. You're out of your league." John's mind raced. He couldn't afford to be distracted. He couldn't allow Saran to play games with them. "We'll stop you," John said, his voice steady. "We won't let you destroy everything humanity's worked for." Saran smiled, a cruel, almost pitying smile. "You think you can stand against us? The Ellerins are ancient. Your species is nothing but a fleeting moment in time." Zara's voice broke through the tension. "Done." She hit a button on her console, and the containment unit's locking mechanism clicked open. John wasted no time. He darted forward, pulling the device from its pedestal, as Zara worked furiously to extract the weapon's data. Saran's eyes narrowed. "You are making a mistake, Harper. You cannot win." "We'll see about that," John said, his voice hardening. The Ellerin diplomat's eyes flashed with something darker. But before he could react, Zara had already transmitted the data. She turned to John, a determined look on her face. "We've got what we need. Let's move." Major Rook nodded, keeping his weapon trained on Saran. "You're right. Let's go." With the weapon's data in hand, John and his team turned to leave, but Saran's voice rang out one last time. "This isn't over, Harper. You've only just begun to understand what you've gotten yourself into." John didn't look back. He knew the stakes had just been raised, but they had something the Ellerins didn't expect: hope. And they weren't going to lose it. "You said." The hum of the escape pod was a constant reminder of how close they were to the edge. John sat tense in the pilot's seat, his hands gripping the controls with a mixture of determination and anxiety. The data from the Ellerin weapon was in their hands, but the Ellerins wouldn't let that slip away easily. They'd be on their tail within minutes. Behind him, Zara and Major Rook were preparing for the worst. Zara was plugged into her console, typing furiously, while Rook checked the weapon's data again for any signs of tampering. The atmosphere in the small pod was thick with anticipation. John could feel his heart hammering in his chest, his mind racing. They were about to ignite the biggest rebellion the galaxy had ever seen, and it terrified him. "Status?" John asked, his voice low. Zara's fingers paused mid-air before she looked up, her expression grim. "The Ellerins have locked the station down. It'll be minutes before their forces mobilize. The data we got, it's more than just a weapon prototype. This is a blueprint for something much bigger." John's stomach sank. "What does that mean?" Zara leaned forward, her brow furrowing as she scanned the data. "It means they've been working on a mass destruction system, something that could target entire colonies, wipe out human infrastructure in a matter of hours. This isn't just a weapon. It's a full-scale assault plan." John felt a cold shiver run down his spine. "Are you saying they plan to wipe us out, one colony at a time?" "That's exactly what I'm saying," Zara confirmed, her voice tight. "The technology is here, and they've already started implementing it. If we don't stop them now, it'll be too late. Major Rook's voice cut through the tension. We need a plan. We can't just run. If we're going to stop this, we have to act fast. John's eyes flicked to the stars outside, their light shimmering like distant promises of hope. We'll need help, he said, his voice firm. We can't do this alone. We've got a resistance network, but we'll have to move quickly. The Ellerins won't take long to trace our escape pod. We can make it, Zara said, her resolve strengthening. The data we have can shift the balance. We can expose the Ellerins' plans, and if we broadcast it to every colony, they'll know what's coming. John nodded, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. There was no turning back. He turned the pod's controls toward a nearby planet, one that wasn't on the Ellerins' radar yet. A small outpost where they could regroup and make their next move. Minutes felt like hours as they descended into the planet's atmosphere. John focused on the course, keeping the ship steady despite the growing tremors beneath them. The planet's surface loomed below, a patchwork of deserts and rugged terrain. This wasn't a place for anyone to linger too long. Brace yourselves, John said as he adjusted the thrusters for landing. The pod shuddered violently, the hull creaking under the strain. Zara held onto her seat, eyes flashing with anticipation. The pod hit the ground with a jarring thud, throwing them forward. John's heart leaped into his throat as he fought to steady the ship. The harsh landscape outside offered no comfort, just a barren wasteland where they could rest, plan, and hope they weren't being tracked. As the pod's engines powered down, the three of them exchanged a look. They had made it this far, but it was only the beginning. Everyone out, John commanded, his voice steady. Major Rook was the first to unbuckle, moving swiftly toward the hatch. Zara followed, her eyes still glued to her device, scanning for any signs of pursuit. Outside, the wind howled, kicking up dust and sand. The planet's atmosphere was thin, and the temperature shift between day and night could be extreme. It wasn't a place anyone would want to stay for long, but it would have to do. We need to contact the resistance, John said, his voice a low murmur. Let them know what's coming. I'm already on it, Zara replied, her fingers working furiously on her device. A few moments later, she nodded, satisfied. I've sent out a signal. We'll get a response soon. Major Rook scanned the horizon, his rifle still at the ready. We don't have much time. The Ellerins will have already tracked us by now. We need to move fast. John agreed. Every second they lingered on this barren world was a second closer to the Ellerins' inevitable pursuit. Let's head to the rendezvous point. We'll stay low, wait for the resistance, and figure out our next move. As they trekked through the harsh desert landscape, John's thoughts were consumed by the weapon, the Ellerins, and the destruction they were capable of. The resistance would be their best chance, but the truth was they had no idea how deep the Ellerin threat ran. For all they knew, this was only the tip of the iceberg. A few hours into their journey, they came upon an old outpost, an abandoned structure left to weather the storms of time. The structure was dark, save for a single flickering light at the entrance. As they approached, John's pulse quickened. He didn't know who or what will be waiting for them inside. They could have friends, or they could be walking into a trap. Zara, sensing his unease, turned to him. Relax. The resistance knows we're coming. John swallowed, trying to suppress his rising anxiety. I hope you're right. They stepped inside, greeted by the dim light of old generators and the low hum of a functioning communication array. The interior was a mix of scavenged tech and makeshift furnishings. A few figures emerged from the shadows, resistance fighters, their eyes wary but determined. One of them, a tall woman with short-cropped hair and a hard expression, stepped forward. John Harper, I presume? He nodded, extending a hand. That's me. We got information you need to see. The woman glanced at Zara, then Major Rook, before motioning them to follow. We've been tracking Ellerin movements for months. You're right to come to us, but we need more than just data. We need an army. John paused, his heart heavy with the weight of their next steps. I don't know how much time we have, but we'll make it work. As the resistance fighters gathered around, John realized that everything had changed. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. This was a war, and humanity's future depended on what happened next. The turning point had come. The stakes were higher than ever before, and John knew they had no choice but to win. The night stretched on, and the resistance bass hummed with the frantic energy of those who were preparing for war. John stood at the edge of the command center, staring at a large map of the galaxy projected onto the wall. Red dots blinked steadily across the map, each representing an Elan outpost or fleet. It was overwhelming, the sheer scale of their reach. The Elans weren't just a threat to humanity. They were the galaxy's apex predators, methodical, ruthless, and fast. "You're thinking too much," Zara's voice broke through his thoughts. He didn't turn, but he knew she was standing just behind him. Her voice was always steady, even when the stakes were at their highest. John exhaled sharply, finally turning to face her. "I'm thinking about the next move. If we act now, we risk exposure. But if we wait too long, we'll lose our edge." Zara tilted her head, her eyes narrowed in thought. "The Elans aren't waiting. They've already begun deploying their mass destruction system, the one we found in their database." John's heart tightened. He knew she was right. They couldn't afford to hesitate. The blueprint they had recovered was only the beginning of a much larger operation. The Elans weren't just building weapons. They were planning to cripple humanity's ability to defend itself, to make any resistance futile. "We'll need a distraction," John muttered, pacing across the room. His mind churned with possibilities. Something big enough to draw their attention away from our movements. Zara's fingers danced over her console, and a series of holographic screens flickered to life. She searched through various reports from other resistance cells. "There's a convoy in Sector Zeta 9, a fleet of supply ships. If we can intercept it, the Elans will have no choice but to divert their forces." John nodded. "Perfect. We can hit them fast, hard, and then vanish before they know what's happened." Rook entered the room, his expression a mixture of urgency and calculation. "We've got no time to waste," he said, his voice low. "The Elans are already moving into position. If we don't act now, they'll have their full forces on us before we can blink." John turned, meeting Rook's gaze. He could see the doubt in the Major's eyes, the uncertainty that came with fighting a battle this big with so little at their disposal. But Rook's resolve was still there. They had no choice. They had to strike. "We're doing this," John said, his tone final. "Zara, get the fleet ready. Rook, assemble the team. We launch in 2 hours." The tension in the room grew as Zara and Rook moved swiftly to carry out their orders. The base, once quiet and hidden, was now alive with the bustle of warriors preparing for battle. John walked over to a table strewn with maps and tactical gear, his mind still working over the logistics of the strike. But no matter how many times he ran the numbers in his head, the same truth remained. They were outmatched, outgunned, and outnumbered. This mission would require everything they had. Within the hour, the Resistance's fleet, small but determined, was prepped and ready for the mission. John stood at the helm of one of the strike ships, his crew assembled at their posts. He glanced over at Zara, who was overseeing the communications console. Her eyes were intense, focused on the incoming reports. "This is it," John said under his breath, more to himself than anyone else. "We're ready," Zara replied, her voice calm, controlled. She was as much a part of this as he was, and in this moment, John found some comfort in her steady presence. Rook stepped up behind them. "We'll hit hard, and we'll hit fast. No slowing down. The moment we engage, we scatter and regroup. No one gets left behind." John looked around the crew. Each face was filled with determination, but there was something else there too: fear. The unknown, the vastness of the Elan Empire, was a terrifying adversary. But John knew one thing. If they didn't fight now, they might never get another chance. He nodded at Rook. "Everyone knows their roles. Let's make it count." With a final check of their weapons systems, the small fleet launched into the cold expanse of space, slipping past debris and asteroids towards Sector Zeta 9. The convoy of Elan supply ships was already in their sights. The plan was simple: destroy the convoy, scatter the ships, and make it look like an attack by some unknown enemy. That would give the Resistance just enough time to move forward with their ultimate plan to disable the Elan weapon systems. But things never went according to plan. As they neared the convoy, John's sensors picked up something unexpected: multiple ships that were not part of the convoy, moving in from the left flank. They were Elan warships, heavy and menacing, fully armed and ready for battle. "Ambush!" Zara shouted, her voice tight with urgency. They knew we were coming. John's heart skipped a beat. They had been set up. The Elrons had anticipated their strike, and now they were trapped in the middle of an ambush. There was no way out, no way to retreat. "Prepare for combat," John barked. "All ships engage." The quiet of space erupted into chaos as laser fire lanced through the void. The strike fleet opened fire, blasting at the incoming warships, their small, nimble ships dodging and weaving to avoid the Elrond fire. John's pulse quickened as a ship shuddered under the impact of enemy blasts. He could hear the sound of the hull groaning as it absorbed the hits. The shield were holding, but just barely. "Zara, get us out of here," John ordered, desperately searching for an escape route. The odds were stacked against them, and he could feel the pressure of every second slipping away. But Zara was already on it, her hands moving rapidly across the controls. "Initiating evasive maneuvers," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. The ship lurched as she veered sharply, narrowly dodging another blast that would have torn them apart. John gritted his teeth. "We're not running. We finished this now. Rook, deploy the fighters." Rook's voice came over the comms. "Fighters deployed. We got your back, John. Let's give them hell." The battle raged on, explosions lighting up the void. The Resistance fighters were holding their ground, but the Elrons were relentless. John's ship banked hard, narrowly avoiding a massive explosion from a nearby warship. His hands flew over the controls, his mind in overdrive. This was it, the moment they either succeeded or failed. He couldn't afford to lose. "Zara, I need you to hack into their communications. Shut down their warships." Zara's eyes locked with his. "I'm on it." The seconds felt like an eternity, but finally, there was a crackling over the comms. "They're down," Zara said, a small but victorious smile on her face. "Their command ship just lost all communication channels." "Good," John said, relief flooding his chest. "Now, let's finish this." With the Elrond's command ship crippled, the Resistance fleet pushed forward. Laser blasts cut through the silence of space, and one by one, the Elrond ships were destroyed, their hulking bodies drifting lifelessly into the void. The battle was over. The convoy was safe for now, but John knew this was just the beginning. They had won this skirmish, but the war was far from over, and the Elrons would come for them. John stood tall, his voice resolute. "This is just the start. We've taken the first step toward victory. We keep fighting until it's done." The aftermath of the battle left John with an unsettling mix of triumph and dread. The convoy had been successfully neutralized, but the Elrond response was swift and merciless. The once pristine blackness of space now seemed to echo with the remnants of their fury, the burning husks of warships drifting like ghostly monuments to the carnage. John stood in the war room, his fingers running absent-mindedly across a map of the galaxy. It was no longer just about strategy. It was about survival. The Elrons had been cornered, yes, but now they would hunt with even greater ferocity. Zara entered, her face pale but composed, her eyes scanning the room. "We lost 4 ships. For good crews. The survivors are aboard the station, but—" John cut her off, shaking his head. "I know. I saw the numbers. But the victory, it was necessary." Zara hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "It was a small victory, John, and you know it. The Elrons will retaliate. And when they do, they'll come for us harder than before. They won't stop. We've just shown them that we're a threat. That's a dangerous move." John's eyes darkened as he turned back to the map. "I don't care. We've crossed the line now. We have to keep pushing. If we sit back, they'll destroy us. If we show weakness, we're done. But if we keep fighting, if we keep them guessing, we stand a chance." Zara studied him for a long moment before nodding. "What's next?" John's hand hovered over the next target, a bright red dot on the map, a major Elrond supply hub, essential for the Elrond's military operation. We hit them where it hurts. This supply hub is crucial to their war effort. If we destroy it, we cripple their ability to retaliate. But we need to move fast. Fast and silent, Zara agreed. We'll need every advantage. The Ellerons will be on high alert now. We won't have the element of surprise. John's mind raced. It was a gamble. There was no way to move undetected, not with the Ellerons now on full alert. But they couldn't afford to hesitate. The plan had to work, no matter the cost. Hours later, the fleet was in position. The cold silence of space wrapped around them, oppressive and heavy. John stood at the command center of the flagship, his mind focused entirely on the task at hand. There was no room for doubt. The Ellerons would soon know they were coming, but they would have no way to prepare for the speed of the strike. "Ready on your mark, Captain," Rook said, his voice steady, though John could hear the edge of anxiety behind it. John gave a small nod. He couldn't afford to let Rook see the uncertainty that lingered in his chest. "Make the jump," he ordered, his voice firm. The fleet moved as one, slipping through the void in a blur of calculated precision. A dozen ships, sleek and swift, their engines glowing with the promise of speed. John's hand hovered near the command console, his pulse quickening with the anticipation of the imminent strike. It wasn't long before they reached the hub, a massive structure floating in the center of a cluster of mining planets. It looked innocent enough, too innocent. The Ellerons had buried their secrets beneath the surface, hidden in plain sight. "Deploy the fighters," John commanded. "Zara, keep us in the shadow of the hub's perimeter. We need to be quick." Zara acknowledged the order, her hands moving swiftly across the controls. "I'll keep us out of their sensor range, but we don't have much time. The Ellerons will have reinforcements on the way the moment we make our move." John didn't respond. He couldn't afford to second-guess himself now. Every moment felt like a lifetime, and the weight of his decisions pressed down on him. This wasn't just about defeating an enemy anymore. This was about saving his people, his world. There was no going back. The signal was given. The fleet moved in, splitting into smaller units to encircle the hub. John's ship, the Vanguard, led the charge. Explosions rang out, lighting up the dark sky as fighters launched from the hangars, streaking toward the supply hub. "All units engage." John barked into the comms. "We destroy everything. No mercy." The battle erupted. Laser fire lit up the dark expanse of space, ships weaving and dodging through the destruction. John's ship rocked under the force of a close blast, but the shields held. He gritted his teeth and pushed forward. "Rook, watch your flank." Zara's voice cut through the chaos. John's eyes scanned the radar. He could see Rook's ship, the Inferno, being flanked by 2 Elleron cruisers. The odds were stacked against him. "I see them," Rook replied, his voice tinged with frustration. "I'm not letting them get away." John's heart raced as he watched the battle unfold. The Ellerons weren't just fighting back, they were adapting. Their movements were precise, their tactics evolving in real time, countering everything the resistance threw at them. "Zara, we need a plan B, fast," John shouted, his fingers flying over the controls as he expertly evaded an incoming salvo. "We don't have a plan B," she said, almost matter-of-factly. "But we can make one. You have to lead them away. We need time to plant the charges." John's eyes narrowed. "Got it. Stay close. I'll buy you the time you need." He launched the Vanguard into a steep dive, angling toward the supply hub's central core. The Elleron's ships followed, their weapons charging, but John wasn't about to give them an easy target. He weaved in and out of the asteroid field nearby, leading the Ellerons into the terrain. It was a desperate move. He knew that if the Ellerons didn't fall for it, his ship would be destroyed and the mission would fail. But as the enemy ships pursued, John felt something stir deep within him, an old fire that had been kindled during the first battle, something that urged him to keep going. The seconds ticked by like minutes. Zara's voice came through his earpiece. "Charges set. We're pulling out. Get out of there," John shouted as he turned the Vanguard sharply, evading the fire from the Elleron ships. The enemy was relentless, but so was he. They couldn't afford to fail. The charges detonated in a brilliant flash, sending shockwaves through the system. The The supply hub disintegrated in a violent explosion, a shockwave rippling through the surrounding fleet. John exhaled, his body tense. For a moment, there was silence. Then came the confirmation. "We're clear, John. The hub is gone. We did it." Zara's voice was the first thing he heard after the blast, and it sent a rush of relief through his veins. But even in victory, John knew the price. The Ellerons would come again, stronger, angrier. And they'd remember this day. "We've won this round," John said, his voice cold. "But the war's far from over."